Abusua for me mamu na akwa eba daily update TV eso send any day DKM ba channel so make sure so better and subscribe button no so e dia mame na afin so tap on the notification bell on send be also so beti maka all the new updates I to channel so mo hu ne ekoso Ghanaian politics message we be se bra ko share video so be like na wa share so dia mame na so wa dwuntwe bia enso efa video so so what be comment section e be jo ho ne akenkan enso so e dia ma NPP MP Kesi kwatin this instem bia beto abonten asese Ghana fo ehwemiye pa. But the statement bia ba abonten mchire ma na chese Kesi kwatin o se o hwese ne eye Ghana government esi ko na chese ye hia se ye some changes ewom ono ankasa echire ma na chese N.Addo and the Baumia government almost shada make plan like 419 plans but the seed lies say omo be Ghana for Akroma ankasa na aye Kesi Plat Junior edin sembin so ababonti na ochese ese asem na aye Kesi kwatin edi ababeto Ghana fo nyine ese ehwe ne ye ne bohu pa cause ne nsem no too deep enkofo a omo NPP mu ba bonten ka se the way N.Addo ene Baumia edi Ghana akoduru no de enya kura chese o masai Ghana fo abrabo kura na se wo to na se nkofo mu NPP no mu a ba bonten edi the real truth ba bonten be ka kire na se untimi nsesa wadwen fasa aban we hu de na chese ono ohun ade oba be ka kire cause nipa watimi atena se am make a whole plan se ode ba be rob Ghana for 419 plan na chese ne nkrofo no ba bonten be ka no kware wom a kire mo na se musimunti na se mbesa kotobam na chese ese mo Ghana for ti yansem mende yenkuti sania Kesi Prat ede ono so nsem abeto bonten fa ne eye MP Kesi kwatin ebeka etre Ghana for eno ti yenkoti na asem
be me back.
Well, to start with, something is happening in the new patriotic party. And it is something of extreme significance. That it appears that it is not being noticed and discussed. Here we have a former Deputy Minister of Finance and Chairperson of the Finance Committee of Parliament making the claim that the country's economy has been run like a Ponzi scheme. That's a significant statement. He is still a member of Parliament of the new patriotic party. But you see, he's not the only one. We have a former Deputy General Secretary, also of the New Patriotic Party, who only this week came up and said that the people of Ghana should forgive the government, the NPP government. Forgive the NPP government for what? And listen to what he says. He said many things, but listen to what he says. I'm a very principled and candid person. To a certain extent, I also agree with Kweku Kwating on the issues he has raised. If you go in for a loan and dig a hole or invest it in a national cathedral project, it is not a profitable venture. We don't need to use taxpayers' money to build a national cathedral. And he claimed that he was one of the people in the party who opposed the project. And he also claims that because of this stand that he took, he was denied appointments. Something is happening in the New Patriotic Party. Today, as we speak in this studio, K.Agyapong, former General Secretary of the party, is following Dr. Baumia around the country, urging people to vote for Dr. Baumia. But go back a few months ago, when he was involved in the contest for the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. He gave testimony about how democracy, internal party democracy, was completely destroyed. How leaders of the party, members of the party, were hunted because of what they taught, because of what they stood for. This is K.Agyapong, who strangely today is campaigning for the very people he criticized, has completely forgotten what he said only a few months ago. But he has given us an indication of what is happening in the New Patriotic Party. You understand? You see, what Mr. Ṛoڀʁėrẏ says is a huge statement. He's talking about a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is essentially a 419 operation. And we have seen it here. You remember that just before the 2016 elections, there was a Ponzi scheme which broke out in this country. I think it was called DKM. You remember? Now, Mr. Ṛoڀʁėrẏ is saying that that is how the national economy is being run. There have been several Ponzi schemes based on deceit, based on tricks and so on. But ultimately, the objective of every Ponzi scheme is to steal and destroy. And that's how he describes how this country's economy is being run. I'm frightened. And I think everybody should be frightened. His words are deep. His words are deep, and we need to reflect on those words. Now, he, former Deputy Finance Minister, not an ordinary person, not the Minister for Works and Housing, not the Minister for Information, Deputy Finance Minister is telling us that all that is done is that we borrow large amounts of money. We use part of the money we borrow, listen very carefully, to retire debts, the debts that we owe, and the rest, we use it, we spend it on projects which are not viable, which would not enable us to repay our debt. Is this not the path to complete national disaster? Because if you borrow, and you don't use what you have borrowed in order to stimulate production and productivity so that you can generate resources to repay your loan, but you use it simply to pay debts, you understand? Simply to pay debt and to chop the rest on non-viable projects, that's the surest path to catastrophe, to disaster. And no wonder, today, Ghana is bankrupt. We are completely bankrupt. We are spending 128% of total national revenue on debt servicing, debt repayment, and public sector emoluments. That's a complete disaster. And if we continue to head in this direction, petroleum prices will continue to increase, the price of bread will continue to increase, the price of cooking oil would increase, the price of garri would increase, the price of maize would increase. Life will become unbearable for our people. And this is the warning which is being sounded. We need to pay attention to this grave warning coming from no less a person than Mr. Ṛoڀʁėrẏ. Now, listen to Dr. Ńyahó Ńyahó Tamaklo, a founding member of the party, and what he says about the party. Now he claims that internal democracy in the party has been completely destroyed. That the party has been hijacked by a small group of persons with loyalty not to principle but to an individual. It doesn't end there. Listen, the majority of members of parliament of the New Patriotic Party went public and told us that the economy was being mismanaged by the then finance minister and demanded that he should be removed from office. Something is happening in the New Patriotic Party. Everywhere you turn, listen to them. Look, Akroma K.Agyapong, he said that members of the party were looting the national coffers as if there's no tomorrow. And there's more. Now, if these people, prominent members of the party, are telling us that there's no internal democracy in the party, one, they are telling us that decisions about national governance and so on today are being made by a cabal. That is their claim. Now, how would you entrust the whole country to this so-called cabal, which is intent on national destruction? And I'm not the one saying it. I am not the one saying it. Why would you do that? So I think it is important for all of us to take note of what is happening within the New Patriotic Party. What people in the New Patriotic Party are telling us. Only a couple of weeks ago, just before the launch of the outdooring of the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Martin Opoku Prempeh, something very significant happened. The newspapers published a photograph of the current flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Napo, and Wuntumi, Chairman Wuntumi of Kumasi, and said that the flag bearer had resolved differences between them. But nobody told us what the differences were. What were the differences? Was it about national policy? Was it personal? And how come that those differences were so important and crucial that they had to be resolved before the outdooring of Napo in Kumasi? Something is happening in the New Patriotic Party. And all we have to do is to open our ears and listen well and do the proper analysis. Listen, Mr. Alanche Martin, he was a cabinet minister, not an ordinary cabinet minister. Indeed, he was the Minister of Trade. He got so frustrated within the party that he's had to break away to create a new platform to contest for the presidency of this country. What pushed Mr. Alanche Martin out of the New Patriotic Party? What pushed him out? He's speaking today. We should be listening to what he says. He was Minister for Trade and Industries. One of the flagship projects of this government was being implemented under his provision. One district, one factory. What happened to the one district, one factory project? Was he frustrated in the implementation of that project? What happened? So, you see, it is important for us. Don't listen to NDC. Don't listen to CPP. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to the voices in the New Patriotic Party and do your correct analysis. And I cannot forget my very good friend, my very, very good friend, Mr. Albert Kandapa, when he spoke to the judiciary and made the point that if every time the judiciary scores in favor of the sitting government, there is a problem, and there will be a problem. What did he see? Why did he make such a public statement? I think it is important for us to listen to these people in government. Listen to them in government and do your proper assessment.
Ṛoḃභėrẏ sisa Ȯgyebere na ɔde hwɛ evidence de Kesi prat ɛna ɛte ne kan wo kyerɛ mu NPP for we die Ọma mu yi ombebu da 8 years no omu chese omu stage bibia omatena ase na omu plan from Āgyapade deal any DKM ne sa ne mani nyina omotena ase pa omotena ase na mkaso omba bebo Ghana for kro no se 419 pa mu 419 na adosi ade kura ma ne yehu kura ne se omuam krofo na eba abonten aye akompre konka ne Āgyapong anu aba abonten ne nansen wodi ba omiachi kura aba abonten sisi enam so ono so opeskanti ni we fe se oba be kan se bia akwabanten na so okodi ba omiachi sa so so aye Kesi kwatin ya ba abonten na osi esese ye fa sansem ni serious pa ni ehwe ni ye because these people no there's no truth to everything na ombeka omono kura ombeka any previous ones ni sisi ehwe ni sisi ade enam se omo ye campaign ti omo de lies and ever beto Ghana fotirim but na so de Kesi kwatin de aba beto abontin de si ehwe ni ye pa cause N.Addo ene ba omia omo say Ghana kra Ghana omo de ne ko eye ye chi sisi ye de kam say tim je say yentimi ensoro kra nipa omotimi ede 419 abedada Ghana for no ane nkrofo mpo efiri na chi ebeka no kura akire eyetime mufo de na chese esese ye hwe sa abanwe ni anya da mistake na ansa nto aba ansa fa mu bi me da wase bebre sa Ȯgyebere na ɔde hwɛ video ebe se onya subscribe ya mesha so beta pia na subscribe button na so edi amame na afin so tap on the notification bell no se na be ya nso beti me aka all the new updates edi to channel we so amu hu ne ko so Ghana politics ebe se de ende macro